What's going on today, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. It's another video from Hazmat Trucker, and this video was requested by, I believe his name was Pony Up. So if you guys want me to talk about anything specific in any of my videos, just put it in the comments section down below. I'd be happy to do a video about it. But he had asked me to do a video about the differences between doing dry van and reefer and fuel hauling. And so as far as like the pay differences and also just the general experience. So in this video, I'll just talk about my brief experience with dry van and reefer. It wasn't extensive, what the pay was like, and I'll compare that to what my pay starting out in fuel hauling was at my first regional fuel hauling job. So for those of you who don't know, I did dry van and reefer for about a month, and it was a regional position based out of North Dakota. I did that for, about a month. And I starting out was, I think I only had about a year and a half or so in trucking experience, and I had zero dry van or reefer experience. And so I wasn't able to negotiate a high salary as a result, but I started out at 52 cents per mile. Basically what that amounted to, the whopping month that I was there, was when I was on it, trying to do my best to manage my clock correctly, and because I was still home on the weekends. I was supposed to be home Saturday and Sunday. That didn't always turn out that way. Managing my clock as best as I could only get about 22 to 2,500 miles per week. And it was also the dead of winter at the time. It was February, and this was several years ago. So I had to deal with a lot of icy road conditions, and so I couldn't go up to my 72 mile per hour speed limit that the truck was governed at for the most part. And so not that I was averaging that when I was loaded anyways, but so as far as the pay goes, starting out in dry van and reefer, 52 cents per mile, and then some ancillary pay, like I think they paid me demurrage after 2 or 3 hours, which it was like 10 or 15 bucks. It wasn't much per hour, but ultimately what it amounted to was about 65 hours a week. Netted me, I want to say it was like $1,000 or maybe $1,100 per week, because my best paycheck out of the two that I got there, because I figured out for pretty quickly it wasn't for me, and I'll get into that in a second. But out of the two paychecks that I got, my best one for 2 weeks was like $2,200. And so that's what, $1,100 a week, which isn't bad by any means. I'm not saying that it's bad per se. The money wasn't bad. Certainly starting out in dry van or reefer. However, it was just more of how the dry van and reefer side of trucking works as far as the logistics of it that just did not sit well with me. And I felt like I was wasting my time most of the time, because I would go to a receiver and sit there for 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 8 hours and lose most of my day. Even after I was starting to get that demurrage pay after whatever, hour 3, it still wasn't amounting to much. And I realized when I broke it down how much time I was working versus how much I was getting paid, I was averaging like 17 bucks an hour. Which again, not terrible, but that's also not including overtime. It was, again, just more of the fact that the amount of time that you spent sitting at one place, either waiting to get loaded or unloaded, especially at some of like the bigger breweries, Anheuser-Busch in Denver, I think I sat there for like 8 hours. Fort Collins, Anheuser-Busch, I sat there for about at least 5, 6 hours, multiple times. For me, I'm a go-getter. And so I enjoy when I can have a vast majority of say when I'm done for the day, or as far as like waiting on other people, because as I found out pretty quickly, I just don't enjoy having to wait on other people to do their job so that I can do my job. And that's ultimately why I fell in love with fuel hauling, is because in fuel hauling, unless there's like an inventory shutdown, which I'm sitting at right now, or there's a a huge line because you're on day shift at the rack, or in the rare occasion that you're waiting for a dispatcher to respond to you. Otherwise, when most of the time it's you load, you show up to a facility, 15, 20 minutes tops, maybe even 30 on the long side of things. You're loaded, you go, deliver, and come right back, or go to a different refinery or loading rack. And it feels, the night goes, at least for me, because as a result of that, your night goes a lot quicker. So 12-hour nights here doing fuel hauling feel like 5-hour days doing dry van and reefer. But again, that's just my opinion. It's, again, a little, I also enjoy fuel hauling a little more because it's active. It's not food delivery hard. It's not that physical, but it's active enough to where you're still out of the truck on average every hour, hour and a half. I typically average 3 to 4 loads a night, and it's really not that bad. But as far as the pay comparison, starting out in dry van and reefer versus starting out in fuel hauling. For fuel hauling, I started out, it was load pay. So it's going to vary, depend on, you know, what loads you do and how often you work. I was pretty much doing 6 days every other week when I started at my regional company for fuel. And I was pretty much maxing out my hours every single week, or as much as I could, because I needed the money at the time, and the work was there. So I was, you know, doing 12, 13, 14-hour days pretty much every single day for the first really 2 years I was in fuel hauling, or 1.5 years. At that first company, I think comparing best paycheck to best paycheck, which again, I'll admit, you know, I wasn't in dry van or reefer for very long. My best paycheck starting out in fuel hauling was like $3,000 or $3,200, and that was for 2 weeks pay, you know. And I think that month I ended up doing about $6,500 net or something like that, that I took home, versus I think, you know, $4,000 or $4,200 is what I did for that month in dry van and reefer. So it's pretty substantial, $2,300 difference or something like that. So pretty substantial. And again, I'm aware, you know, if you spend some more time and you get your experience in dry van and reefer, you can make, you know, 65, 70 cents a mile pretty easily. And then if you can manage your clock well, you can push the $2,000 a week barrier. But that's just a normal thing in fuel hauling. Even on the lower side of things, in the lower cost of living areas, you're going to hit $2,000 a week pretty easily, especially if you are pushing your clock and you're pushing, you know, 65, 70 hours a week when the work is there. And it's just a lot easier. Personally, I have not heard of anybody doing substantially over 100,000 as a company driver for dry van or reefer. I've heard them hitting 100,000 or maybe even a little bit above that. But, you know, again, for fuel hauling at the better companies, if we're going to compare apples to apples, you know, the best dry van reefer companies to the best fuel hauling companies, on an hourly basis, you're going to make at least 30 to 40 to 50% more. Again, depending upon the company and what you get paid for your specific area that you're working in. Because again, if I wanted to, there was a sleeper position available in Wamsutter that I could have taken if I really wanted to. I don't really want to live out there. That's an entirely different story and a different subject. But I could have easily pushed, you know, on a regular basis, 65, 70 hours a week, or even any other normal, and that's just working 5 days a week. If I wanted to do a normal regional sleeper position with Gemini, we have guys that are pushing $160,000 to $180,000 a year, just because they're able to work legally. They're able to work up to 84 hours per week with still getting their reset in. Now, it doesn't always turn out that way. Generally, you're going to be much closer to 70 hours a week, but still, you know, they still get overtime after 40 hours a week, just like we do. So they're racking up, you know, 30, 40 hours of overtime per week, and that adds up pretty quick. Now, for me, not worth it. I'm not at that point in my life anymore where I want to work 65, 70 hours a week on a regular basis. I'm much happier at 55 or 60 hours a week, because you can still have a bit of a life at that point if you're good with managing your time. Again, you still have to get your endorsements to come to fuel hauling. And I think that's probably going to be the biggest barrier to entry for most people, is because they're not even willing to, or they don't have the desire to come to hazmat, let alone fuel hauling. And that's fine. It's not for everybody, just like how dry van and reefer wasn't for me, you know. I hope that answers your question, Pony Up. Again, if anyone else wants me to talk about anything specific, just put it in the comment section down below. Or if you disagree with me and you think I'm wrong, or you do agree with me, again, put it in the comment section down below. And if you guys would like to see more videos, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless.